Chair now recognizes Mr. Langworthy from New York.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the opportunity to once again serve on the Oversight Committee under your leadership. This is the best committee to fight to make sure that we have transparency in the people's government and address fraud, waste, and abuse. And there's no better way to start that mission in the 119th Congress than by addressing the harmful consequences of abuses of the work-at-home policies across the federal government. Commissioner O'Malley, you've been asked here today because the Social Security Administration is one of the prime examples of a work-from-home policy gone wrong. While you have worked overtime to guarantee Social Security Administration employees the luxury of telework until 2029, my constituents, they're still sitting at home wondering why they haven't heard a response from your employees in months and in some cases years. My district staff handled nearly 400 Social Security-related cases last year, many of which stemmed from outrageous delays in simply getting a response, and that's why they turned to our office. You and I both know this is completely unacceptable by any metric, and a disservice to all of our constituents and the millions of Americans who rely on Social Security as their main source of income. Commissioner, Social Security data shows that processing times have not improved since fiscal year 2020 and have yet to return to pre-pandemic levels. Furthermore, a study by the Stanford Institute for Economic Policy Research also found that telework policies have generally led to declines in productivity. Given this, how could you believe that our constituents can expect faster responses from your offices with telework in place?
Actually, I've changed the policy on telework. I brought more people back to all of the 9 regional headquarters as well as to the Baltimore and Washington headquarters. And actually, a lot of processing times have been improved. In fact, the ones that most of your constituents call for, the greatest volume is the retirement. And that one we have returned to 87% timely within 2 weeks. It hasn't been at that number for 7 years. And then earlier, put up the map, we were showing that we reduced to the lowest level in 30 years the backlog of ALJ cases. And the dark green represents 270-day processing time, and that's the first time in 30 years we've gotten it down to that. At the beginning of last year, it was 450. But your point, and the main point, and what I hope we acknowledge today, is that when you reduce staffing at this agency to a 50-year low, while demographics increase its customer base, as a matter of math, we just have too few employees serving as many people as they need to serve. But we are serving them better at the end of last year than we were certainly at the beginning of last year. But you could make it
Sure. I'm not only hearing from my constituents that are struggling to get responses from your employees on the phones, but they're facing challenges with walk-in appointments. The field offices in my district primarily serve an older population with limited access or familiarity with new technology. This appointment-only policy is creating a significant barrier to resolving their issues, and the needless extension of telework for Social Security employees only exacerbates these challenges. Our constituents are being left out in the cold with very limited ability to walk in, speak to someone face-to-face, and get those Social Security concerns addressed. Yes or no, was enforcing full 5-day office staffing at field offices, particularly in our rural areas in districts like mine, ever discussed during a negotiation with the American Federation of Government Employees?
No, we did not discuss that aspect. I was not directly involved in the negotiations, but we did. On February 2nd, I had a deadline where we had to look at the telework and on-site requirements. We did not change it in the field offices. Those folks had returned 5 days a week, and 2 days 2 days telework and 3 days on-site. We did not change that one, but we changed others. And the recent thing that you mentioned about encouraging people to make appointments, when I left the agency, it was still very clear that anyone can walk in to a field office. But just like, I used to be governor of Maryland, and most state MVAs have switched to an appointment model. That doesn't mean that people can't walk in. They still can. but the appointment model allows them to spread,
It makes it very difficult. Our seniors that are far less tech savvy are having difficult
They can
times.
still walk in.
Were any concerns raised about the challenges that less than 5 days a week of in-person staffing would pose on rural and older Americans who depend on these field offices?
Again, the field offices are open 5 days a week. They're actually open for longer hours now than they were open pre-COVID, where they used to close for half a day, I think, on Wednesdays. That was before my time. So they've been open since COVID.
Commissioner O'Malley, my constituents, tax-paying American citizens who have paid into the system for their entire working lives, they rely on Social Security staff to address their concerns in a timely fashion. And we wouldn't have that volume coming at us if there wasn't an issue. It's plain and simple. Without a full 5-day-a-week in-person staffing, they will not be served adequately because of irresponsible telework agreements. I am glad to see an end to this administration that has time again put the dictates of unelected bureaucrats before the needs of everyday hardworking Americans, and this is why I support President Trump's forthcoming agenda and challenge to the agreement between Social Security Administration and the AFGE, and I will continue to advocate for a return to the office policies across the federal government. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields. That concludes our questions. So in closing, I want to thank our